Welcome to The Way Home with Laura Smith, the show that brings you wonderful guests, helpful advice, and uplifting stories. The Way Home. Live inspired. Here's your host, Laura Smith.
Well, as healthcare costs continue to rise for all of us, consumers are taking on more of the financial burden for their health and wellness care, which is not covered by insurance. Bobbi Rebell is here today. She's a certified financial professional and author, and she's joining us to discuss what consumers should consider when it comes to flexible financing options for their health and wellness. Welcome to the program, Bobbi. This is a really important topic. I know it touches just about everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And yes, this is a topic that touches just about everybody because we all want to be healthy and we also want to have our financial health along with it.
Absolutely. And how that is impacted together. How are continued rising health and wellness costs impacting us now? I mean, I can say from my own personal experience, but I want you to tell me from your vantage point.
Well, I think you and I can both agree, both from our personal experiences and from what we hear from our friends, our family, your listeners, clients, and so on, that healthcare is a big concern. In fact, 53% of Americans actually have delayed medical treatments due to the out-of-pocket costs. That's actually a Synchrony statistic. So it's something where it's impacting our decision making and really can have, I don't mean to make a pun here, but it can really cost us our health if we don't have the resources or don't think we have the resources to pay for the medical treatments that we need.
You are absolutely right. I was talking with a dear friend the other day, and he said, no way, no how am I going to go back to the emergency room for anything. I don't care what's going on with me because I just can't afford it. And I thought that is absolutely frightening that we have to think like that. Tell us about Synchrony. You just mentioned them and their new fair financing principles.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'm very excited about this. The Synchrony Care Credit Fair Financing Principles is a tremendous resource for consumers because it really focuses on transparency and clarity when it comes to healthcare costs. So for example, the first thing everyone should do, your friend probably didn't even know what things would cost if he were to go to get the healthcare that he needed. You want to know what things cost. So on the website, one of my favorite things is that they have a procedure calculator and you can go in there. I've done it myself. You put in, there's about 700 different procedures. You have medical, dental, they even have veterinary care and so on. And it's an easy drop down menu. You've got categories and everything. You put in your zip code. So it's specific to your area because we do know that costs can vary around the country and it will give you an estimate. For example, I put in for a friend of mine the other day, what would LASIK cost? You can put that in there and it'll give you the approximate cost. So then when you go to talk to your provider, you have an idea of what the number is going to be and you can at least start thinking about it from there. So you don't just put off decisions as your friend did.
Absolutely. And then is there a way on this app or with Synchrony to find out like what your insurance is going to kick in as opposed to what you're going to have to pay out of pocket? Does it have that kind of delineation in it?
Well, what it's going to tell you is what the estimated cost of the procedure is. And that's the starting patch. So the starting point. So then from there, what you're going to do is you're going to go to your insurance company. You're going to ask them what they're going to pay. You can go to your doctor. It's pretty simple. Ask them. They can usually do it for you. If not, you can get, the right medical codes and ask them in advance. And you may want to do that because sometimes certain procedures do need advance approval. So you want to make sure you're ahead of the game in terms of that. So you figure out what insurance will pay. And then you want to look at your own personal resources. Do I have the money, for example, in the bank for this? Is this something that I can afford? Do I want to use my flexible spending account for it? That's use it or lose it money. So that's money that you may want to tap into. Also, you may have a health savings account. That's money that you could potentially use to pay for it. But then you also want to look at other options like flexible financing. And that's why I love this Synchrony Care Credit website, the Fair Financing Principles, because it really, really explains so clearly how this works. And I cannot stress to you enough how important it is to understand how, for example, deferred interest works. Because as a financial wellness educator, one of my frustrations is when people misunderstand how something works and then they make decisions that they would not have made had they fully understood how, for example, deferred interest works.
I love that. And you said Care Credit. Yeah. So is this credit card Care Credit or how is this used?
Yes, exactly. So Care Credit is a credit card for health and wellness needs. So it can cover everything from, you might think of your medical needs and your dental needs. I mentioned veterinary needs, but what's great about Care Credit is it also can be used, and the flexible financing can also be used for things that you may not think of, but really make a lot of sense when it comes to your health and wellness, like your sleep. So for example, if you're going to go out and buy a bed at Sleep Number, you can use your Care Credit card there. If you are concerned about your feet, I had plantar fasciitis. I don't know if you know what that is. It's really painful.
Yes.
So now I have those arches. They are expensive, and your insurance doesn't cover that much of it. But let me tell you, that is something that affects not only your feet, but your whole back. You need to when you need it, you need it. People understand what I'm saying. So Good Feet store is something that's in there. The Mayo Clinic is in there. So it's really a very versatile option and a wonderful resource for people.
Oh, this is just great information. Is there a website, something easy to remember where my listeners can go to find out more about the fair financing principles at Synchrony and the Care Credit and Care Credit Card? Where can we go?
You go to carecredit.com/FFP. That stands for Fair Financing Principles. All the information is there, including how deferred interest works, how to apply, and also other financing options. And it even has, how your bill will work and some really great, easy to watch videos that explain everything. It's a great resource.
Oh, it absolutely is. Say it one more time, the site to go to.
carecredit.com/FFP, as in Fair Financing Principles.
carecredit.com/FFP. Wonderful stuff here. Bobbi Rebell, thank you so much. And what a super information. And thank you for bringing it to us in a way that, well, even me, who doesn't understand any of this stuff, can grasp it. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you.
Hi, here's a minute of purpose, improving your life 60 seconds at a time. There's a saying that goes, you can't pour from an empty cup. That's why self-care is more important than ever before. Don't say you're too busy. A little time out will make you healthier and more productive. Here are some fun ways to do a self-care day. Start by getting out of your quarantine outfit and revisiting clothes that make you feel good. If you like to read, pick up a favorite book or magazine. Just avoid anything that feels work-related. Throw a dance party in your living room, revisiting your favorite songs, or create a movie marathon with titles that make you smile. Nature is always a good remedy for what ails you, so take a walk. On that note, disconnect from the screens and just take in what's going on around you. The point of taking time for yourself is to bring you back to your world, refreshed and ready. So plan your next self-care day and refill your cup. This has been your Minute of Purpose. Find more now at nowwithpurpose.com.
You're listening to The Way Home with Laura Smith. Once again, here's Laura.
Well, according to research provided by the American Cancer Society, more than 2 million Americans are going to be diagnosed with cancer this year. Thanks to earlier detection, though, and innovations and new treatments, cancer mortality rates are falling, which is great news. But what they have found is there's a lot more discovered in early onset cancer diagnoses. So we want to hear about this and if there are any advancements in treatment and detection. Mohit Monrao is the Senior Vice President of U.S. Oncology at AstraZeneca. And Mohit, thank you so much for joining us. Is it alarming to you that it seems like some of the cancers are being detected in a younger age now, 50 and under?
Hi, Laura. Thank you for having me. And yes, it's alarming to see that there are 14 different cancer types whose incidence is increasing for people under age 40. And generally, when we think about early onset, we're talking about cancers that used to be happening in older adults that now start to happen in people under the age of 50. While that's alarming, on the other hand, it's also great to see the progress we are making in early detection, personalized medicine, and the options of treatments that are available to people. But we've got our work cut ahead of us in terms of ensuring we take the most advantage of that to deal with this huge burden on the society, which is cancer.
Absolutely. Can you tell us a little bit about what you think may be causing this early onset cancer, or is it you don't know yet?
Yeah, so there's constant research that's happening in terms of understanding what the drivers are. There is definitely a role that environment plays and exposure of different elements in the environment, whether it is pollution, whether it is smoke, etc. But there's also elements of lifestyle, and then there are genetic elements too. So there's a multitude of elements that could be constituting this increase in early onset of cancers. Having said that, while we focus on that, there's also a parallel focus we can do is where we see that the cancers that are increasing in younger populations, there are screenings available for many of those cancers. For example, breast and colorectal. We could actually help educate people about staying on top of the understanding of the risk factors, their personal risk factors, as well as understanding what screenings they may be eligible for to stay ahead of this. So we can actually work in parallel on both understanding why it happens, but also dealing with it on the other side through proactive early screening.
Yes, I heard that. Like kind of in my time, it was, 50 or older, you start checking for maybe colorectal and things like that. But now they're saying as early as 40 for some of these, including breast cancer, to start getting these screenings earlier. Is that something you recommend?
Yeah, so yes, Laura, absolutely. There is a central US PSTF guidelines which look at for different cancers when and who should be screened. So that's something we should all follow. Today, actually, 2/3 of the country, 65% of Americans are not up to date with that. So we have to educate people about understanding that. And that's something we can get ahead of, especially for breast, colorectal, and these cancers which are screenable in the younger populations too.
Absolutely. And is there hope for the detection in younger population? Are there some therapies and some different ways of mitigating the cancer that you're feeling hopeful about?
Yeah, so if we think about once we can find cancer, it's important to develop personalized treatments for that. So understanding the biology of what drives the cancer, finding the right diagnostics to tailor the treatments to. So we have moved away from one-size-fits-all treatments to personalized treatments, and that's where the science is progressing. And at AstraZeneca, we have a bold ambition and vision to eliminate cancer as a cause of death. And every scientific progress we make, combined with the broader screening that we can drive, we feel that we are able to get closer to that ambition and vision as we progress. So it's exciting times from that perspective, but there is still a lot of work to be done.
That's very hopeful. Can you give us maybe perhaps a website to go to where we can get more information to share with others and people we love?
Yeah, first and foremost, I would remind your listeners that if you have any concerns about your health, the best way to seek advice is to talk to your healthcare professional, the doctor you see on annual basis or who's your general practitioner. It is important to stay up to date with screening, and your doctor can help you educate that. There is government websites, USPSTF websites you can go to, and there are many ways to learn. But the best point is to start with your physician whom you can share your family history with, whom you can share what you know today, but they can also help you educate on what screenings you may be eligible for. I would also use the same opportunity, Laura, to tell your listeners that today, where we stand, cancer is screenable, detectable, treatable, and survivable. But we need to take steps in terms of ensuring we outsmart cancer by getting ahead in terms of our screening as well as our treatments.
That is great news, and I'm so thankful that you came on today. Mohit Monroe, Senior Vice President of U.S. Oncology at AstraZeneca. Thank you for the words of wisdom and absolutely for educating my listeners today on what they should be, looking for in terms of don't wait for your screenings. It's helpful and helps to prevent as well. Thank you so much for coming on the program today.
Thank you.
You're listening to The Way Home with Laura Smith. Once again, here's Laura.
Well, we just endured what is that time of year when we all have to get out our checkbooks and probably write a check or two to the IRS. And it's just, something that, we endure, we get through. However, there are so many things about taxes I don't know, and I've learned a lot this past couple of years. I've had some issues myself, and I had to go to a tax professional to find out. Well, H&R Block has been in that business for a very long time, and I have someone with me today, Alison Flores, who leads a tax team at H&R Block. She's manager with the Tax Institute. at H&R Block. So thanks for joining us today, Alison. We have something to talk about when it comes to natural disasters and taxes. I didn't even know the two went together.
That's right. So I hope no one here today has to experience a disaster. But if you do, there's a few things you should know to help financially prepare for the disaster and to get ready to understand the tax impacts. So the first thing we want to do is make sure you have your records. So we need to prepare a secure backup location. For many of us, that'll be a cloud-based solution. For others of us, it may be that old safety deposit box or a product that's fireproof and water safe and the whole bit. Second thing you're going to do is gather all those financial records. If you're a homeowner, you'll have your mortgage papers, your closing disclosure statement, your homeowner's insurance packets. So we need all that. You'll also want your financial records that you can access if you did experience a disaster situation, as well as your contact information. And we do recommend last year's tax return as well. So you'll have that all stored away. The other thing that's really important to do is to document your valuables and your assets. So if you're a homeowner, what we want to do is walk around your house, take pictures of each room of your house, go up in the attic, go down to the basement, in the furnace room, and then walk around your home and either take a video or take pictures. And what you're doing is you're documenting how your home looks, what's inside it, the assets you have. So you may be able to say, oh, I have landscaping, I have a perimeter fence. And that helps you remember what you have and also document the value and condition of your assets if you were to experience a disaster.
I had never thought of that. That's really interesting. And you're talking about, when you're talking about creating this sort of packet with all of your information in it and your documents, is if you don't have a cloud and you talk about a safety deposit box, you're talking about off premises in case something happens to your home.
Absolutely. So some of the disasters we've experienced lately, hurricanes, flooding, wildfires, can essentially destroy a home and its contents very quickly. So what we're looking for is an off assets or off premises location that is secure. These are financial records, so you want to make sure it is a secure place.
I see. Wonderful to know. And what else would we have to be mindful of besides sort of photographing and journaling everything that we have in our asset class, basically?
Absolutely. So if you do have receipts, and I know for a lot of larger projects, you'll have receipts, but you want to keep a list of the major upgrades if you've replaced the HVAC system. It's handy to have a list of all those projects that you've completed so you can remember what you've done over the years and who the vendor was and the receipt if possible, that type of thing. So if you were unfortunately in a disaster, the next step is to start assessing the damage. So one of the first steps would be to contact your insurance, contact your homeowners, contact your vehicle insurance. They'll start the claims process for you. But again, you're going to want to document everything. So as you have expenses to repair or replace items, you'll document that. You'll also want to document the condition of the home when you're able to get in safely. So sometimes you're not able to safely document the inside, but you do want to document as much as you can. Again, take the pictures, take the video, get your phone, and document what's there. And this will help you have records that substantiate your loss, that show how much damage you sustained as a result of this disaster experience. The other thing to remember is there may be a need for temporary living expenses. You may have non-taxable disaster assistance for meals or lodging temporarily after a disaster, or you may be looking at disaster benefits from an employer plan, or possibly taking a 401k distribution for a disaster. So those are some things you're going to look at in that assessment process. What are your options and how much is the disaster? The next thing go ahead.
No, go ahead. I thought that that is amazing. I feel like I'm hearing some information that I probably should have known all along, but go ahead.
Right. So the next thing we're going to do is you go through that replacement repair. We already talked about managing those receipts. You'll be working with your insurance company, and they may cover all of your losses fully, or there may be a shortfall. So if there is a shortfall where the insurance doesn't cover all of your loss, that's where taxes come in. So you may be able to claim a disaster loss on your taxes if your insurance doesn't fully cover your losses. Many people prefer to work with a tax professional on this. There's some special calculations and a provision that may allow you to claim that loss on your prior year return, which is helpful. For example, if you have a loss now this summer, you may be looking at amending last year's return to claim a loss once you have all your records in place. So that's really important. The other thing that comes up with taxes is oftentimes you'll get an extension of time to file and pay your taxes. So right now we have several locations in the country that are on disaster extensions. Los Angeles County in California is on a disaster extension until October 15 for this year's taxes. So a lot of times that's something you'll want to find out. Do I have more time to file? Do I have more time to pay? And that'll help you manage your payments and your records and the tasks that you have to do when you're so busy rebuilding from a disaster.
So incredible, the information, and can really help somebody. I had my house caught on fire when I first moved here, when it was during a renovation. I do understand. We think that these things will never happen to us, but lo and behold, once in a while they could and would. So we want to be prepared. You've been a real blessing today with this information. Where can we find more? Where can people go to for a recap besides listening to the podcast again, to any information that you can provide?
Absolutely. I would visit hrblock.com for more information about special disaster relief and to connect with a tax expert in your area if you'd like some help.
Thank you so much. Alison Flores, who leads a tax team responsible for developing and managing tax content for individuals, and she's a manager with the Tax Institute at H&R Block. Thank you so much for joining us today on the way home.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you all, and thank you all for listening to The Way Home this week and to my wonderful guests. And may you all have a wonderful week that is safe, that's happy, healthy, and full of lots of miracles as well. I'm Laura Smith. See you next time from The Way Home.
Podcasts by Federated Media.